Hello and welcome to What Moves Us, the podcast where we ask what moves us, or more accurately, what's going to move us in future.
With the Rail Innovation Group's Johannah and Liam Henderson, we look at debates, themes and decisions of the minute that will impact on the way we get about in the future. Hi Liam, hi Debs.
Hello Johannah, hello Liam. Nice to see you again.
Where are we all today? I'm in London.
I'm in Kent, in Rochester.
Bonnie, Scotland. The storm's just passed us and blue skies are coming out.
You do have a Christmas jumper on as well, it seems.
I do have a Christmas jumper on, but every day is Christmas.
Right.
Yep, that's one way of looking at it at the moment.
It's the only way to get through life.
Does that mean that every day you're starting drinking at 10 a.m?
No, I do have a little bit of professionalism. I leave it until lunchtime.
Right. Well, it is 14:26 at the moment. So I'm worried now. That's why you blurred out the background of your Zoom.
No, that was me trying to be professional.
Right.
My background's blurred out and I don't know how I've even done that. So that's good. Yeah.
So we're recording this on 30th of September, a week after we came back from Berlin. And so we're going to cover our experience at InnoTrans last week. For anyone who is unaware, InnoTrans is the biggest trade fair in the world, I think. Happens to be about rail and the rail industry, and it's in Berlin once every 2 years. So Johannah and I are old hands at it, but Deb, it was your first time. So tell us what you think.
It was. I'm an InnoTrans newbie. I thought it was great. I obviously wore out 3 pairs of shoes and my feet were bleeding by the end of it. But yeah, it was impressive in its scale. I know you had both described to me how big it was, but I still didn't quite appreciate it until I got there. So, but yeah, it was just really nice to see the industry together, and I thought it was really well organised, as you would expect, I suppose, being held in Berlin. Haven't been to Berlin before, so it's really nice to see the city, although I didn't see that much of the city, but saw enough of it to know that it's worth going back to, that's for sure. But InnoTrans itself, yeah, it was just really good to have sort of loads of informal useful conversations with industry colleagues. We obviously saw lots of our Rail Innovation Group members, which was lovely, and we might have just gone out for a few little drinks and things in the evening, which was a lot of fun. So who can I name check? Well, obviously one big circle. It was lovely to see Emily and her team, and particularly as I think, and although I can't say that I went round to every single stand, because I think there were about 20 million of them, but from what I saw, she had an all-female stand basically, which I thought was quite good, because that's the one thing that struck me, which is probably my own sort of stereotype bias, is that I kind of expected, because it wasn't in the UK, for the audience to be much more diverse than it is in usually when you go to rail events in the UK. And actually, disappointingly, it was quite similar to rail events that you have in the UK, in that it was a lot of kind of there weren't that many women there compared to men, and there weren't that many Black and minority ethnic communities there either.
I think that's quite interesting, that observation, because not only because we've both made it whilst we were there, but I've seen quite a lot of posts making that observation as well, on LinkedIn, post InnoTrans and that. And yeah, and I think I've sort of like seen because I wondered whether it was worse, given that this was the first one since the pandemic, and I've noticed in conferences overall that diversity seems to have declined in certain areas because of the impact of the pandemic and the fact that people have moved on and that, but also it did seem particularly pronounced. But I saw an interesting post, who I can't remember who posted it might have been Daisy from Innovate UK, where she made the observation that a lot of the women who were there, they weren't even necessarily there on business. They were there fulfilling the reception roles and serving the tea and coffee.
Exactly. Running the operational bit of the stand.
And I thought even that was quite an interesting observation, because I thought, you know, like you, I thought we'd moved on from that, where, you know, there were senior women in business now and in rail and that, but we seem to have taken a backward step. And I just wondered what you thought about that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree. Were you asking me, Johannah?
I was, yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. And I was going to follow up on that point as well, because that's what I observed. And yeah, it's just kind of something that, I mean, I did have some interesting conversations with you know, lots of people from some of the bigger companies, particularly, who had obviously noticed that and noted it, and are actively, you know, have actively got, you know, programs in place to try and bring women up through, you know, into more senior positions, mentoring schemes, that kind of thing. But, you know, I mean, I had an actual Liam and I had a conversation which kind of describes exactly why there aren't as many senior women in the industry, I think, which is that we had a conversation with a company which I won't name because it's, you know, it's not necessary. And they were interested in, because I'm a consultant, they were interested in possibly asking me to do a piece of work. And I said to Liam, I don't know if I've got the right skill set for that. And Liam said, well, don't let that stop you, because it wouldn't stop a man saying yes to it.
Yes.
Which, you know, basically kind of sums up. I mean, I know there's kind of lots of very, you know, clever scientific research being done about all of that, but actually that's what it boils down to, is that I think women are generally much more cautious about overcommitting, you know, being able to do the you know, being able to have the right skill set specifically for whatever job they're going for, and that becomes more pronounced, I think, the further up the kind of hierarchy you go within a, sorry, that's my phone. Yeah, so I think it was just really funny that Liam and I actually had that conversation. And yeah, so I don't think
I was quite as gentle in saying, don't let that stop you. I think I was slightly more blunt at what you were doing.
I didn't want to come, you know, well, go on then, Liam, you just say what you did say. Lay it out there for us, yeah?
No, it was just that. I basically was telling you off for underselling yourself.
I know.
But yes, but it's that classic thing of you looked for a reason why you couldn't do it, not just assume you could do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's interesting in itself, though, if you think of why, you know, there weren't many women there. So is that the same? Would you think that that's the same reason why, you know, that that there's more barriers to just the way conferences and exhibitions are set up, that they're not set up to promote women or other backgrounds wanting to go, and so that's what makes it heavily dominated by a single sex, by a single colour, by, you know, I mean, because the other thing as well is, I think, was probably a bit different at this time as well to the previous times when I've been very German this time as well, not such a big international audience as has been in the past, and maybe that's still a hangover from the pandemic, where well, a mixture of the pandemic, but also the fact that people are all worried about costs, you know, not just our personal costs but corporate costs as well.
I agree with that. Well, the uncertainty is, if you think you had to buy a stand, let's say 12 months ago, given all the uncertainty in the world, would you have committed to buying a stand at risk? Because the event might not have gone ahead. Equally, you might not have been available to go to it. So if you're worrying about the pennies in your business, whilst it's invaluable to be there for the networking and to show off your company and your brand, you're making an investment decision 12 months out that you just didn't know.
Yeah, and it's quite a leap of faith, as you say, in the current climate, I think. Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I just think generally, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily to do with the conference. I think it's just, you know, just kind of in relation to, you know, all of those companies would have wanted a kind of handful of senior people within their organisation to be there to talk to clients. And I just think there's a significant lack of women and other, you know, diversities in senior people in a lot of big organizations, you know. Yeah. And so that's obviously played out when you go to one of those kind of conferences. And I guess there's probably, you know, I don't know about the actual, it's probably a bit like sort of marketing generally, where I think it's more, I guess it's the marketing departments of most companies that actually get involved in the kind of operational bit of you know, bringing their stand to that event. Yeah. and I think marketing generally has a higher has more females working in it than men across a lot of sectors, not just rail. So that kind of then highlighted the fact that you've got kind of one set of people doing the kind of operational stuff, and then you've got the actual people talking about business who are all.
So of the conversations you did have, whether they were with German men or very few women, did you both think it was worthwhile going to InnoTrans? Did you have good conversations? What's the latest in industry?
Yeah, I thought it was worthwhile. I thought it's a really interesting and, you know, good conversations. I mean, I do think that there is, you know, I mean, we can't not talk about the sort of uncertainty that there is sort of prevalent in the UK at the moment, because, you know, we've had so many ups and downs with government. We've had 4 different prime ministers over the last 6 years. We've had, you know, lots of different people in the Department for Transport. We've had 3 different secretaries of state, haven't we? So that has significantly affected kind of confidence generally, I think, you know, what the pipeline of work looks like in the sector generally. I think people are worried about the fact that the parliamentary process has been sort of stymied a little bit, and there's a bit of a backlog of bills and things going through Parliament, and that's becoming a bit of a worry. Obviously now we've got quite a serious economic situation unfolding this week. So I think that is, you know, that's inevitably going to be sort of playing out in people's conversations. I mean, there's been you know, there's a lot of rumours around whether GBR is going to still be in the bill that's going through at the end of the year, which means, well, I don't know what that means. That means that Great British Railways
isn't great anymore.
And I've just had some direct experience of that, because I was supposed to talk to somebody this morning in the transition team, and they've just been told that they're no longer required. So that's kind of, you know, all of those things. And it's difficult for that to sound really political, but I'm not making a political point. It's extremely unsettling for the industry. And I think I did have quite a lot of conversations about that. And it's unusual because in sort of at that level, usually when you're kind of talking to people, generally they don't, you know, people are quite guarded about what they say about the government and stuff like that. Or rightly so. So I think it's interesting that people are becoming frustrated, I would say, that the UK is going to get lagging behind.
I would agree with that in terms of the conversations. Last week, it was, I think one of you mentioned this too, is people you would think, people you say who are normally quite guarded were expressing some frustration. And it wasn't just about party political frustration. It was, we just don't know what's happening, frustration.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing, is because when you're, I mean, particularly with, you know, not just for our own members, but also some of the stakeholders that, you know, some of the larger companies that we engage with for the group and for our members, and that is that I don't think really as a business entity you really care what colour the government is. All you care about is the pipeline of work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's, you know, because of, you know, delays to the bill, because of delay, you know, I think, you know, when I mean, because what I think is interesting is, because Deb, you mentioned, you know, we've had 3 Secretary of States. Well, it was at InnoTrans that in 2018 that Chris Grayling was at the DIT, in the Department for International Trade reception that we also attended, where he announced the review into rail. And and you kind of think 4 years on, obviously it's been challenging because of the pandemic, but also you think, you know, how much further are we on, you know? And if you look at, you know, we're talking about InnoTrans, but if you come back and reflect in the UK, I mean, like, it's worse.
Yeah,
you know,
and
that's a reflection. That's a reflection of that lack of, you know, certainty, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you look at things like, you know, the reviews that the rail review, which looks like it's going to be sort of torn up and started again, the Williams review, like it seems to me. I mean, I don't know what you think, but so that seems like a, you know, gargantuan waste of time, really. I mean, the Oakville review into HS2, which some, you know, some of the recommendations have already been, you know, ditched, you know, including things like, you know, we are now not having an HS2 minister, which was something I'm pretty sure that was in the Oakville review. So, you know, there's obviously the eastern leg of that project, which has been kind of carved off, and there's no real certainty on what's going to happen there. So there's a lot of, I think there's just a lot of frustration, really, that we just, because all of this means that what are we delivering? You know, everyone's in that position where they're thinking, well, do we just carry on? Do we wait? You know, what do we do? So
it's interesting that I find it's like this tale of two industries, in the fact that we're sitting with industry people saying we have no idea what's going on. It's frustrating. We don't know what to invest in. And yet, if you look at the passenger numbers, we're already back up to like 92, 93% of pre-pandemic demand. That's only seems to be growing. And very soon we're just going to end up with the same problems we had 3 years ago of overcrowding, reliability issues, and
I think the reliability
issues.
I mean, we've got the strike, you know, obviously we've got all the strikes, which aren't helping people's confidence in being able to travel on the railway. So that's a problem. And, you know, something's got to give there. I mean, you know, really, let's be honest, we've got to get around the table and do some negotiating. So that's, I mean, and I think that is affecting performance, and it is affecting people's kind of perception of the railway, really, which I think is a real shame, because it felt like up until, you know, just before the pandemic, we were kind of potentially entering into a period where, you know, generally people saw the railway as being much more appealing, I suppose, to travel for, not just for work, but for leisure and that kind of thing. And especially people that are kind of a bit more sustainability minded would be trying to make those decisions based not even on, you know, appropriate routes or easiness of travel, but actually thinking, no, I am going to get the train because it's a better thing to do than getting in my car or what have you, or even getting a flight. So I think that is a serious issue. I mean, there was quite a damning, I don't know if you saw the Gwyn Topham article in the Guardian this week, which was not a happy read, really. I mean, I know Gwyn Topham is always a bit sort of a misery guts on the railway, and particularly seems to hate HS2. But there you are.
So for those that didn't see it, what was in it?
Well, it just kind of gave a very sort of down in the mouth picture about rail being in a decline, basically, potentially entering into a period of decline. Is that a fair summary, Liam?
Yes. I mean, I think it was, this might happen.
Yeah.
But I'm internally surprised by most things at the moment, so you never know. Yeah, you never know. It wasn't exactly upbeat, you know, about what's happening in rail and what that could potentially lead to. I mean, I know that he always drags out Christian Walmart, you know, but I have a question then to bring it back to InnoTrans for both of you, which is that, do you get the sense that the same trauma is happening because obviously we're surrounded by the European industries, do you get the sense that the same trauma or challenges are happening there? And equally, do you get the sense that other countries have a different perception of UK rail from your conversations last week?
I got the perception that I mean, I didn't speak to that many. I spoke to a couple of German colleagues. I don't think I spoke to anyone from any other European countries, but I mean, I get the sense that they think that they have got a more competent government. Although, let's be honest, it would be difficult to get a less competent one. Oh, did I say that? But so I think there are challenges around. I think I got the sense from the people that I spoke to who are based in Germany that there is a real challenge around investment in infrastructure, which obviously there is a challenge here as well. There's a financial challenge, but I did get the sense that, and I got the sense that they would like to move quicker, but I didn't get the sense that they weren't sure about the path they were on. Whereas I do get the sense here that we don't seem to have that kind of I don't know whether it's that, you know, this overarching kind of sense that in the UK we are going to have to invest in rail and approach rail as a key way to get to net zero, which is what other countries are, you know, overtly doing. And, you know, the French are making decisions around not having domestic aviation, etc., all those kind of things. They seem more confident in the link between transport and, you know, transport decarbonisation and climate change, getting to net zero, whereas I don't think we are anything close to that at the moment.
That was, I mean, I was going to make it exactly the same observation, is that that there is a greater link between what it means for getting to net zero, and they look at it as in transport in the whole. Because if you take it away from the politics of the government and just talk about politics of rail in the UK, we talk a lot about the decarbonisation of rail. We don't necessarily talk about the decarbonisation of transport. We don't make the link between getting people, particularly domestically, and this is the link for HS2, out of air travel and into rail more. We don't talk about getting people out of car journeys, which could be done by rail if we invested more in rail. The one thing that I did, that was having a lot of conversation for routes that don't have lots of electrification, because obviously Europe has a lot more electrification than the UK or America or anywhere else, was that I was picking up a lot of discussions on what was going to be the technology, electric battery or hydrogen, and and which route we should be going. Because I personally, this is a completely personal view, is I'm not sold on either. I don't think it's the way to go, because I think it will be like the diesel cars. I think we'll find out in 20 years' time that actually it's no better than having diesel trains or hybrid trains or whatever way you want to call it. That really we should be still looking to invest in electricity, because long term you can power electric by hydrogen, solar, wind, whatever. There's more of a route to being able to power them sustainably than because you still have to deal with the byproducts of hydrogen and batteries, and everyone seems to have conveniently forgot about the byproducts and what the whole life cycle process is. It's it's almost like we're always trying to solve today's problem rather than actually looking for a sustainable problem, sustainable solution that will last a long time. And that's the difference that I get, and sort of like coming back to your point, Debs, about the fact that they're in Europe they're making more of that link to that we get green transport by investing more. But I think they do have the same challenges.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation actually with the Dutch woman who was from the organisation that's like the Dutch equivalent of Young Rail Professionals. I can't remember her name, and she was saying actually that she's not sold on either any of that either. But I agree, because I don't know, we always seem to have this thing where we just want to sort of lurch from one sort of solution to the other, and I personally don't think there is any one solution to any of it. It's a bit like renewable energy itself. I don't think there's one panacea that's going to solve our energy crisis. It's all about locally appropriate energy production. Do you know what I mean? And I think there needs to be a whole mixed bag of approaches. I don't think we should be saying, let's all have hydrogen trains and it's going to solve everything. Do you know what I mean? So I just think that's just not feasible or desirable.
So what conversations did you have, Liam, that you thought were interesting?
You put me on the spot now. I thought I was asking you questions. What conversation I had was interesting. Actually, it was an observation. I didn't see anything. It was an observation. Obviously, we had our extremely glamorous Rail Innovation Group body warmers on. I didn't see anything Sorry?
Extremely hot.
Oh. I didn't see anything transformational. Nothing was particularly inspiring for me as this is the next big thing, which I was quite surprised about. I walked around sort of the system halls a lot. And so obviously our members, the small companies, had great things to show, but I was just surprised at the it was a general, it felt to me like a general, yes, we're back, let's all get together as rail. It wasn't like, this is the future of rail.
Yeah, I thought there was nothing, sort of like nothing had happened in 4 years, which obviously could be difficult, but you know, I sort of, because one of the highlights from 2018 I remember was it I mean, obviously probably Belarus couldn't come, but was it Belarus who had the Sky Train?
Oh,
That was sort of like a personal monorail or something, and that was quite exciting.
right.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember the double-decker train for the UK market. But yes, so
although having said that, I did really like the trains that are going to be on Transport for Wales and Merseyrail, the new Stadlers. They were quite nice trains, and I can confirm that the charging points work.
Right,
but obviously
so,
nothing innovative.
So the trains are your most exciting thing.
Train. Actually, why did I say that? I never get excited by trains, but I got excited by a train. So
I did take Deb
people on the Mersey. Watch out for those new trains coming. They look lovely.
Yeah. I took Deb on a pilgrimage to go and see the section that has toilets for future trains. She was very impressed by.
I was, yeah. Some of them reminded me of, I remember in the Great Pottery Throwdown, they were making urinals in one of them, and they were a bit like them, some of them, which was quite hilarious. Though obviously not made out of pottery. I don't think that
I did go and have a look at the toilets, but I don't remember what did you see that was exciting about toilets? Because I did go and have a look, but I don't remember anything exciting about them.
I don't think I remember anything that exciting. I mean, it was quite funny because we kept making people go into the seat inside them and taking photos of them peeping out. I think that was the high excitement of it, really, Johannah. I don't think it was the actual toilets that were that exciting. I mean, I don't know how exciting you can make toilets, really. This is the trouble, you know, some things are just best left as they are. You know what I mean? You cannot improve on certain things, probably, you know, shapes of urinals. They just are they are what they are.
I know, but for our listeners that have been to Japan, even on the trains, they have different varieties of toilets to meet the various uses.
Yeah.
They do, yes, actually. You make a good point.
Well, then perhaps that makes your point then, that, you know, there wasn't enough innovation at InnoTrans this year. Let's hope that in 2020, when will it be? 2024.
2024, yeah.
You know, we're just going to have to go back and check that out.
Well, yes. Memorable notes from this year was definitely the green beer at the Infinitive stand, which was interesting. Johanna, you apparently liked it, and nobody else did.
I do like green beer. But I prefer the red one. But I do like the green beer.
Right. It's very nice to finally meet the Nomad Digital people based in Newcastle. So we hadn't seen them before in person. It's good. We will have to make a trip up there for a meetup.
Yeah,
definitely.
That is definitely the case.
Yes. So memorable moment for you, Johanna.
Oh, I knew you were going to pick on me first for a memorable moment. I am going to say the reception at the British Embassy, because I think and I picked it for a variety of reasons, because I've never been to the embassy, and I think it was a bit poignant because of InnoTrans being the week of the Queen's funeral, and the fact that she'd opened it in 2000, and there was pictures all around of the Queen and that. So I think there was something emotional there, but I think it was just being there, getting together with people, and also meeting some people that I hadn't met before. So you know, so I met Daisy for the first time from Innovate UK, because I think she must have just taken on the job just as the pandemic started, and just really meeting some new people and that. So I think that was just really lovely to spend time in that embassy in that week. So I think sort of like that emotional thing, I think.
Yeah. Deb, yourself?
Well, I quite enjoyed the Siemens drinks reception.
That was good too. Which
was unexpectedly sort of rocking at 6 p.m. with the DJ. And I like the way that Liam, you kept on sneaking through this. We kind of like, we colonised this bit of their stand even though none of us work for Siemens. And we just kind of all got into this little bit. And then you kept popping through this little gap with loads more really nice beer and handing it to us. And there was this DJ playing quite, you know, pretty cool music. And I just quite enjoyed it. I had some quite good conversations in there and it was quite fun. So I think that's probably one of my highlights. Because it was quite random, you know, listening to that kind of it was trancey dance music.
It was definitely German techno, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. So it was good. I enjoyed it. But I must say, my highlight was also that going to the British Embassy. That was good.
Yes, it was nice actually.
Yeah,
I did enjoy that, and actually I had good conversations there too.
Yes,
I think also when you take people slightly out of when you're talking to them on stands, people are sort of they're sort of like almost in work mode and they have to be talking about work, whereas when you get people at either a drinks or the embassy, or we had dinner with some people, are slightly more relaxed, and therefore you can find out more about either the product or the development or anything really, or just make a better connection when they're not on the stand having to perform.
Yeah,
which I thought was quite important to have those conversations outside of.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So what was your highlight then, Liam?
It was jolly good.
My highlight.
I've got 2 minutes and then I have to go, sorry, because I've got another call at 3 and I know I was late, so I appreciate I've ruined it. But
ruined it. What was my highlight? For me, I find as I mentioned, it was the stand. I think we'll put stand drinks and stand parties when you gather at the end of the day, because everyone's sort of like absolutely knackered from talking all day. But then as soon as they get a beer in the hand, they want to talk again. About being at InnoTrans.
That was true actually at the Railway Gazette drinks thing on the Thursday, wasn't it? It's my feet, and I probably enjoyed that the most because I actually managed to get a seat because my feet were killing me by then. I haven't been there all week, so I got this really nice little seat. And then I just kind of had some good conversations without my feet hurting. So
and you sent me across to get you an Aperol Spritz from Hitachi.
Yes, I sent you to steal an Aperol Spritzer from the Hitachi stand, which you dutifully did, which was very impressive, and it hasn't not gone unnoticed, Liam. So yes, it's good, very good. That made it for me, yeah. There's some big glasses that disappeared into the coffers of the Railway Gazette, probably. So
for next time, we've already said that we'd like to see more diversity and more innovation. What else would we like to see more of next time?
I don't know really. Just
I would make a suggestion. Sorry, while Deb is thinking, I would like to implore anyone who is demonstrating next year, can they please put what they do on their stand somewhere, so that as you're walking down the halls, you can actually read what the company does, because it was so hard to work out what loads of them did.
Yeah, that is true actually. Yeah, that's true.
What do you mean? Because there was so much engineering focus, so you couldn't necessarily work out what their widget did?
Pretty much, or there was just nothing there. There was just them, and I was like, well, I don't want to commit to going up and talking to you. So,
yeah.
Like, give me a hint whether I know it's relevant for me to stop by and talk.
Yeah,
it must be really difficult though, because that's the thing about InnoTrans though, isn't it, that you've got the huge companies like Siemens who were there, completely out in force, showing German greatness and everything about what Siemens do, and that there's a big multinational on that, and then you have like one big circle, a little, like they've been going for a few years, they're still on their journey to greatness, even though they've achieved so much, and that it must be really difficult if you don't have these huge marketing budgets, and you don't have the ideas on how to sell yourself as a stand. And obviously that's to a certain extent, maybe that's the benefit of being part of a group, either, like being part of, our group, Rail Innovation Group, or being part of the Rail Industry Association or part of the DIT, that you can sort of like benefit from hearing ideas from other people.
Yes, right. Deb, I can see you waving that you must go. So
I must go, but can I just say I'd like to see next time, before I go, I'd like to see next time InnoTrans free water.
Tap water, yes.
Like to pay €5 for a small plastic bottle, because I don't want to buy plastic bottles of water, numero one. And two, I don't want to have to pay €5 for it because it's a downright, daylight robbery. So yeah, I think there should be free water at InnoTrans. Let's start a campaign. Hashtag free water.
I think that's definitely a good one.
Right. Writing that down.
Thank you guys. I've got to go because someone's waiting for me at 3 o'clock for a meeting. That's
right.
Good to chat.
Good to see you.
Speak to you later. Bye.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to another episode of What Moves Us. We hope we moved you. For more episodes, you'll definitely want to subscribe to our channel.
Until next time.